Hey, welcome to episode 9 of the Inspired Conversations with Coaches podcast, where I share interviews with heart centered coaches to inspire you to unlock your true self so that you have a truly wonderful life. In this episode, we discuss overcoming limiting beliefs, and my guest is Elaine Canepa. Elaine supports individuals in their journey of remembering their divine blueprint and aligning with their authentic self to create the life of their dreams. It's an unbelievable conversation, really great conversation about something that will help so many people. So enjoy the conversation. Hey, so welcome, Elaine.
Hi, Scott. It's great to
Great to have,
see you.
yeah, thank you. Great to have you here. And covering one of my favorite subjects, limiting beliefs. She's got so much to it. I want to kind of get straight into it because I've done the intro about where your sort of divine blueprint that you're things and which is cool, but really understanding limited beliefs. So when someone comes to this, like clicks on this and all that, so what would you describe um what limiting beliefs are and how they form in a person's life as well?
Okay. Yeah. So, when we look at a limiting belief would be something that runs in the subconscious mind. So sometimes we're lucky enough to be conscious of it if we've been doing various programs and works, but a limiting belief would be something like, I'm just not worthy of ever making enough money,
Yeah.
or I just don't deserve to have the relationship I want. And often these limiting beliefs will just come out in a conversation with a friend, and we end up reaffirming a belief through our words. But a limiting belief is actually rooted in the subconscious mind. So we have layers of the mind. We have the conscious mind that we think is running the show. Like, I'm going to go now to the store and buy such and such and such and such. Or I'm going to have this really meaningful conversation with this friend, and we've had some difficulty, and I'm going to approach this in a very conscious way. Typically, what happens is the limiting belief, which is in our subconscious, which is usually formed between the ages of 0 or even preconception, birth,
Yeah.
preconception, up to about the age of 7.
Yeah.
The limiting belief is actually created in our template, in our subconscious, and it will 95% of the time hijack our conscious choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause there is a bit about it, I suppose, if you even if some people they say something, they don't even know they're doing it, do they? They're not even kind of you someone else that picks out and goes, oh, you're not gonna because they say, oh, I'm never gonna be able to do that. I'm not gonna be able to do that. And uh, but my one was is it's up here in the corner somewhere. I never point to it. It's a bit awkward. The Rubik's cube. Oh, well, there you go.
Oh,
Got it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's something I always want to do as a kid and just like could never do it unless I cheated it and pulled the tabs out and redid it all. And that was one of it. I always saw it. And then when funny enough, we was just talking about off air, but the lockdown scenario, um, I decided I wanted to teach myself how to complete it, how to do it, and whatever. And I can do it now in about 2 minutes in speaking about. But it was really it was interesting how difficult it was kind of an experiment I was doing myself, and it was so interesting how difficult it was to overcome my own beliefs around this is too difficult. This is this is going to take ages, whatever. Um, and then I committed 18 minutes each day to doing it at a level time and keep going back. And actually, I thinking it would take a long time because that was my belief.
Yeah.
Um, and within about, I don't know, within about a week, I could do it. It's like quite quickly as well. So it was quite surprising. But yeah. So how do people's, when you talk about if you're kind of particularly the divine blueprint and living authentically, how does the beliefs keep people from connecting with their divine blueprint?
Mhm. So the limiting beliefs in the subconscious, which are, like I said, formed really young, they hijack us often when we're, like, say, setting a goal, like, I really want to choose work that is meaningful to me,
Mm.
right? Someone decides, I'm going to really find this meaningful job that feels like a true expression of who I am, right? So that's the goal. The limiting beliefs that may run begin to pop up as this person is working towards that goal. So a belief may come up like, such as, what makes you think you're worthy of having a job that truly aligns with your soul, right? This could be a really old voice that came from youth. It
Mm.
maybe came from an experience with a teacher or a parent. Um, we don't really know until we dive in when I'm working with clients where these beliefs originated. But the limiting beliefs will often hijack our progress towards what feels truly authentic for us. Even like in a relationship, a partner wants to have a really meaningful, deep conversation with their other partner,
Mm.
and they kind of tee it up in their mind like, okay, I'm going to approach my partner and I'm going to talk to them about communication, or you know, they cut me off while I was talking last night at dinner and it really hurt my feelings. I want to approach them and have this meaningful conversation with them. And you're going through the motions in your mind, you're thinking about how to have this conversation with your partner, and in the conversation you freeze up. A person freezes up and they just can't speak their truth, right?
Mm.
So this is where the limiting belief, which we don't consciously know usually, of my voice doesn't matter,
Mm.
it it will stop us from having the truthful, authentic conversation that's living inside of us because of this tape playing in the subconscious
Yeah.
that says, why do you think what you have to say matters? So this is kind of how limiting beliefs hijack
There's
us.
a
They're
little
very
bit of protection in there, isn't there? Sort of trying to protect you from
right.
you
Well,
think you.
yeah, limiting beliefs are created in the subconscious at a
Yeah.
time when we're in a fight or flight situation and we want to be able to feel safe,
Mm.
right? So often limiting beliefs are created in situations when we're little to keep us feeling safe. Like, if I keep my mouth shut, I'll belong to this family. But a child doesn't ever consciously play that tape.
Mm.
And then we grow up with this pattern of keeping quiet because as long as I keep quiet, they'll like me or I'll belong.
Yeah. Is there quite a few? Is there what are some common sort of limiting beliefs that people have then? Is that are sort of the really common ones that you end up when people come to you particularly?
Yep, there's
Um,
there's some themes like I'm not safe in the world, but they don't actually consciously realize that's what's running.
yeah.
But comes up is I'm not safe in the world. I'm not worthy of the life I want. I don't deserve to be heard. I don't trust myself. I'm not trustworthy. It's not safe for me to trust my intuition. These are some kind of basic themes that come
Yeah.
up. Um, yeah.
And how do people recognize that then um in their own lives then? How can they recognize them? So if they're the most common ones that kind of come up, the people if they're watching this and it's already if someone's watching this kind of it might have triggered people already around their own limited beliefs, right? So because they go, well, actually I say that to myself a lot. I, think that but the
Yeah.
well how can they recognize it in their own lives, how it's showing up in their own lives?
Okay. Patterns. Um,
Yeah.
like, this always happens to me. I get to know somebody, things are going really well, and um, then they disappear, right? So that could be a dating pattern. Another pattern could be I just can't seem to lose weight and keep it off. I always default to eating junk food. That's another pattern.
Mm.
Another pattern would be,
So the
um,
yo-yo people that go like yo-yo diets, if you like,
oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yo-yo
limited
diet.
belief rather than just a because a lot of people say that, but they blame the diet or the food, or the sweet tooth or whatever, don't they? But
Sure. And that's all very much could be a contributing factor, but the
yeah,
way we would approach it is what's under it. For instance,
yeah,
if someone um, had an experience when they were very young, thin, beautiful, appealing and something had happened to them in which they began to feel unsafe dating, then the subconscious may hold the belief, well, I'm not really safe if I'm thin and beautiful,
Oh, yeah,
right?
deep in it.
Hmm? Steep. So we often approach it not just from the fact of what food do you like, or should you be keto or vegan or this or that. We look at it more from what is under it about your relationship with food, your relationship with your body, your
Mm,
relationship with how you feel in the world. So that's where we go when we start to work
mm,
with what's under the pattern.
mm. I've got a, a crazy one about food myself because I only eat about six different types of food,
Yeah.
and it was actually crazy from as it was always from my childhood, like you said, that 0 to 7 years, and I was allowed to eat what I want, if you like. And by the time my mum tried to do something about it, they also bought me a big dog, so the dog got my food, and then I was skinny, so they kind of then gave me what I wanted to eat. Uh,
Okay.
and interesting, more of the when I tried to kind of do something about it a bit, like because I realized obviously it was a thing from a childhood, and that the I actually started getting it's where it's affected my body over years, or because obviously like not 50 years that has been like it, obviously, but the when I started to try and do something around when I was about in my 30s, like early 30s, then I got IBS on the back of it because of my body wasn't used to any other foods, if you like, strong foods. So I actually got IBS and starts to it. But it caused a lot of that from that very early on of like, oh, I don't like stuff, and it was because I was telling myself I don't like it because I was getting rewarded for obviously for not liking it at the time. Fortunately, my kids like everything, so it's not too bad. So it's hasn't affected. And I love cooking, which is really weird because I can't taste the food. But it's
Interesting.
yeah, but it's a funny sort of limited belief I had. I didn't know it was a limited belief for years, obviously.
Mhm.
'Cause if I treated it when I was younger, or someone sort of helped me when I was younger with, obviously that would have been a lot easier to get through. But because it went on too long before I tried to try and do something about it, um, then it caused, because my body just wasn't used to it, and
Yeah.
yeah, it ended up being like things like pizza I didn't like, and went to Pizza Hut with my wife, and ended up on the floor in their bathroom, doubled over with stomach because it's reacted badly to me. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it, how that stuff from that 0 to 7 really has an impact on stuff. And
It really does. You know, and with the main modality I use with shifting the limiting beliefs is Psych K, which was originated by Rob Williams, who was an incredible teacher who actually transitioned a few weeks ago, and he was an incredible mentor and teacher to so many. Um, but the idea with the Psych K work is that you have a condition.
mm,
The condition named by the doctors is called IBS, and we often speak of these diagnoses in terms of conditions
mm,
because when we say I have IBS, we really own it, right? And then
yeah,
it continues to implant deeper and deeper. But you know, you say, I wish I had dealt with it when I was younger. But here's the beautiful thing with limiting beliefs. When you get the right modality to shift the energy around the limiting belief to something that's more supportive, you can actually clear the template
mm,
and move forward and live in a new way. Um, so we often think that we are in a loop or a conundrum when we have a diagnosis. But the beautiful thing is there are ways to shift energies around these things
yeah,
to live a healthier, freer life. There's some really great teachers out there. If you follow Bruce Lipton,
yes,
he's an incredible
yeah,
teacher about these kinds of things and a font of knowledge to really start to shift that mindset that we really can, we are not a victim of our limiting beliefs. We can
yeah,
actually shift them.
yeah. When I saw him a few years ago, God, I just afterwards just like need to lie down. um,
Yeah, yeah,
like, what the if we go back to sort of people are trying to identify the limiting beliefs, obviously people that read it, but sort of identify and overcoming them. But what are the first steps for someone to that can take to identify their own limiting beliefs?
So pay attention. I
Mm.
know that seems so basic, but
Really what it
when
takes to spot these patterns. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, really pay attention. So begin to look at, I encourage people I work with or potentially that I work with to just have a look at their lives, like in a really honest way, these areas of the life that are feeling challenged: health, vocation, relationships, money. Money's a big one. We need money in the world that we live in.
Mm.
And it's often a trigger for a lot of people. So I encourage people to really get mindful, grab a journal, whether it's an online journal or a pen and paper, and and take stock of these areas of their lives. Notice what words naturally flow out of the pen or the fingertips when they're writing, and notice where the I nevers, I should have, I could have, why didn't I? Um, if only,
Mm.
if only my life had been different. If only I had made these choices. These are these little subtle keys and clues that begin to create a pathway to where those limiting belief and patterns lie. And then we can kind of begin to unravel those threads going back to see how this tapestry has been created. Like, for instance, you've
Yeah.
done this kind of detective work about your current physical condition, and you're
Mm.
able to trace it back to very specific events,
Mm.
right? So this is how we kind of move forward into looking at where these sneaky beliefs lie.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. So even in your um I suppose everyday stuff, like you say, like just being that more self-aware of your own language will give you clues of, yeah, so all of them words like can't, should, and all them kind of negative words.
Yeah.
And I suppose every time, is it the case then that every time someone is doing that, so like I think something very random, maybe it might be about earning a certain amount of money, then so it's like it keeps going, I can't, or, it's not possible and stuff like that. Is it every time that they're using that word? Is it confirming it even more? Is it confirming it deeper?
Yes,
Is it?
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
We create our reality.
Yeah.
So if we continue to feed the narrative of I'm never going to make enough money, I'm never going to have what I want, life is just too hard. Um, I'm always passed over for a promotion, whatever. Like, we've got these different tapes. This It just continues to create that same neural pathway in the brain
Yeah.
of the scarcity thinking, or that I'm just never going to have what I want. And then as detectives, we trace backwards to where this all began, and
Yeah.
you shifted at that early stage, and the perception begins to shift of the environment, and the environment actually begins to respond to us differently.
Mm. Yeah. So, the when there's some things which are I'm trying to think of a phrase to say really. I mean, it's supposed to like a healthy caution, right? So um like I don't know, jumping over like two buildings and from a roof to a roof, right? And it's like I can't do that. Is there
Yeah.
a differentiation between a limiting belief and I don't know what to call it, a healthy caution, something say I shouldn't do that because it's
Yeah.
of the consequences, whatever. I mean
Yeah.
that's a bit extreme, but there'll be, I suppose, smaller versions of that. Is there less extreme versions of that? And how can
Mhm.
people differentiate? How can they differentiate between what? Oh, that's a limited belief, or that's a healthy caution, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, limiting beliefs are created to keep us safe.
Mm.
Okay. So they're created in these younger mindsets, like 3, 4, 5 years old,
Mm.
where and again, it's subconscious. So it's not a conscious decision. Usually it's at the subconscious level. Like,
Yeah.
in order to be safe, I need to do XYZ. So
Yeah.
there's
Is that
also,
part still connected to the clock brain? Even
say that again.
is that part still connected to like the clock brain that we have?
Say,
Oh,
yeah,
keep it safe. Yeah.
the fight or flight, the
Yeah.
old reptilian brain is very much, you know, um, it's important because it is designed to keep us safe. Like, don't walk in front of speeding traffic, right? We have a core understanding at the subconscious level that I will be safe if I don't walk into speeding
Yeah.
traffic, right? So so um in the work I do, we don't ever want to create new beliefs that don't feel completely supportive of the system, right? So if a person says to me, I'd like to believe that I can leap from building top to building top,
Yeah.
I would say, well, that's not in my scope of work. And it might be something to explore with a therapist.
Mm.
Because if someone is desiring to leap from building top to building top, it's possible there's some other things at play that need to be addressed,
Yeah.
right? So the work I do with helping people discover their divine blueprint and turn these limiting beliefs upside down and create supportive beliefs is designed to help them get so in touch with their intuition and their core knowledge that they're able to live a more healthy, fulfilling life.
Mm. What that's a beautiful statement in itself, isn't it? That's what people want. Um, what strategies do you use then to help people release beliefs then that are no longer serve them?
Yeah. The most powerful and effective method that I use with clients is called Psych K. It's what I'd mentioned earlier. It was
Yeah.
created by Rob Williams. And actually, he worked very closely with Bruce Lipton for many years. Um, they had met at a conference many years ago and saw the connection between the epigenetics, the DNA, the beliefs.
Mm.
So the most powerful and direct method I've found to work with clients is Psych K. I also work with shamanic practices,
Yeah.
which are rooted in animism. I use these practices with clients that want a more experiential, kinesthetic experience, that want to work more with like ancestral stories and work more with nature. But even Psyche is very shamanic in its nature because it connects the client to their higher self and also to um, a greater field of energy, call it spirit, God,
Yeah.
the field. So I've found that these two avenues work most effectively with the people that I work with, and I love them both very
Yeah.
much.
It's yeah, so many things like that can complement each other really well, isn't there? Which is really good.
Yeah.
So what Psychano, so tell us about what is that? Is that a form of coaching or is it a form of tapping or what does that entail for people?
So in a Psych session, we would simply start with where the client wants to look at. I had a client recently that said, I just can never make the money that I want to make. In 20 years, I've never gotten above. And then she said, and also, I just have not ever been able to maintain a relationship in which my partner shows up for me. She
Yeah.
said, I just think that my core stuff is I don't feel worthy. Right. So this is what she presented. She's done a lot of work. I have to say, she's done a lot of different types of modalities, but this is how she presented with, I believe I just need to look at this piece around worthiness. Right.
Mm.
So I work primarily on Zoom because I'm a digital nomad, but I also have a home base here in Tennessee. So I
Yeah.
see quite a few clients online when I'm here. I mean, excuse me, in person.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's wonderful because it's a hybrid modality, but
Yeah.
there is some some dialogue, but we don't do, unpacking your entire childhood story. In fact, we discourage extreme storytelling because that reignites all those neural pathways.
Mm.
We want to get to what is it that you're experiencing? Well, I'm experiencing that I just don't feel worthy of love and money and success. And then the next question is, well, what do you want instead? Well, I want to believe that I am worthy. I want to believe that I am capable of a successful relationship. So, right there, the client is able to tap into what they really, truly want to believe about themselves. I really want to believe I can heal. We go through a short protocol, um, and it involves some different body movements that encourage the client to cross over the midline of the body, which creates a whole brain state. This gets into the science piece to connect the left and the right hemispheres.
Mm.
And the beautiful thing with Psych K is that once you create the new belief, it's permanently implanted. It's there. And I have a lot of clients that see results after one session.
Mm.
They see evidence of, wow, I really do see the world differently.
Mm.
So it's really hard to predict what will happen because we're all so beautifully
Yeah.
unique. Um, but it's not, this is not EFT. This is not tapping. This goes a lot deeper than that.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lipton actually writes about it in his book, Biology of Belief, about Psych
Okay.
K.
Yeah. Cool. And that so is that all part of the divine blueprint, is it? Is that all?
So when I talk about the divine blueprint, that's part of how I present it to my
Yeah.
clients and what I see. Um, Psych K, I didn't, they didn't say when I studied and continue to study, okay, we are looking at the divine blueprint.
Mm.
I see
I
it
feel, yeah.
personally as we are completely capable of reconnecting and remembering the divine blueprint that was intended for us when we came into this particular
Mm.
manifestation. And I see the divine blueprint as mental, physical, spiritual, and physical alignment with that which feels most authentic
Yeah.
and brings the most freedom, fulfillment, and purpose and connection.
Yeah. So that would really help with overcoming your limiting beliefs that you have. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And how can someone begin to, firstly, thank you for going through with that. So, and keeping away so into languages people could
Yeah.
probably, because I can imagine you could probably quite go into the like the very scientific part of it as well, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And things. So, thank you for keeping it on a really good understand.
Absolutely.
How can someone begin to connect really deeply then with their authentic self? Uh,
Mm, mm.
especially if they're limited by very ingrained beliefs. Because
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. So I really think that being able to begin a meditation practice and a mindful sitting practice is crucial for several reasons. One, a lot of people are really uncomfortable with being with themselves.
mm,
They're really uncomfortable with being alone and still. I mean, look at the world we live in.
yeah,
It's go, 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 fat, connect on your phone, scroll constantly, post, it it's a very noisy world we live in, right? And our ancestors that lived, tribally and communally way back then, they lived in nature, they lived in villages, they raised children together, they ate from the land, they made offerings to the land. They made offerings to animals if they chose to eat animals. And so we've become a very complicated, layered society where we are not encouraged to know ourselves.
mm,
So I often say to people, if you can begin to just sit with yourself for 2 minutes, when you wake up, before you even put your feet on the ground,
mm,
just try to be in silence and listen to your body. Listen to um, what feelings you're having. Notice if you have tension in your body.
mm,
Begin to cultivate a relationship with yourself in which you feel that you can begin to know yourself.
mm,
And I think that's the most basic. It seems so simple, but it really is simple. We
mm,
we tend to overcomplicate everything. And regardless of a person's religious or spiritual context, that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about the relationship with self, and it
Yeah.
is really our most important relationship to cultivate that.
Mm. I suppose it's why people when they go somewhere that's true nature, or they go for what, they're not used to doing that, if you like, that the real um they feel that connection, don't they? And they feel in awe of the place because it's giving them a connection to their authentic, which they probably don't see every day, or don't, haven't seen for or felt for a long time. And
Yeah. It's really, really amazing when a person has that first experience of stillness,
yeah,
and they begin to feel something like it feels very foreign, but at the same time, it feels really welcoming. That's the beginning of opening that door
mm,
to being with oneself and being okay with everything that shows up,
yeah,
whether it's uncomfortable or beautiful or sad or a heavy emotion. We have
yeah,
to be able to be at peace with ourselves, and that's the beginning.
yeah, absolutely. It has to start from there. Um, I'm just trying to think the word, the thing that comes to mind of the work that you do really brings out someone's true potential. And what's the what's the connection then between what we said, like limiting beliefs and almost that fear of someone stepping into their true potential a little bit? Because some people can say, I want this, you know, to earn this amount of money, or I want to be able to do this. Um, but that fear of stepping into that full potential. And so what's the connection between that and limiting beliefs? There is one.
Everything.
Yeah.
The connection is direct. Um, I think that people truly do have a fear of what if I lived up to my potential? Well, then I'd have to be ultimately responsible for everything in my life.
Mm,
I'd have to be accountable for what I do, what I say, what I create. And
yeah.
that's a lot. That's big. It's also very liberating,
Mm,
but it's also pretty scary. So often people subconsciously choose to stay small, play small, not go for the
yeah.
gold, because there is that deep fear of, will I be good enough to do
Mm,
all of this? Will I be enough to stand in this sense of greatness? And I am not enough is a limiting belief that is everywhere, and
yeah.
that it's ingrained. Unfortunately, I think it's taught to us to some extent by institutions, and we won't go
Yeah.
down that road. But if you think about school and how
Mm.
children are schooled,
Oh, God,
sit
yeah.
down, don't don't step out of line, this, that, all these structures, children are not taught
Mm,
that they are capable truly of anything.
mm,
That limiting belief of I'll never be enough
yeah.
begins to play in the background, and it really rules a lot of people's lives.
Yeah. It's interesting you said it because obviously a lot of stuff where it's ingrained from that 0 to sort of 7 years thing, where our adult mind is formed, if you like, as all opinions and stuff is filmed. What about the impact from the secondary schools, particularly, like 11 to 16, because it's very much about being in everyone keeping you in a certain box, isn't it? And their own opinion of what should that box should look like, rather than
Yeah.
being,
I think that once they hit 8, 9, 10 years old, those limiting beliefs are going to really be loud.
yeah.
Okay. And
And they start secondary with them limited beliefs, really. Well,
it's going to undermine them. And I'll give you, this is a really nice story. When Einstein went home for school when he was 5 years old, he gave this letter to, have you heard this story? He gave the letter to the mom from the kindergarten teacher. And the mom opened the letter and said, "Oh, your son is brilliant and he's beautiful and he's the top of the class and he's so full of love and joy and he gets it and he understands blah 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 blah." And what the letter actually said, which the mother didn't read to his 5-year-old child was, your son is never going to be anything.
Mm.
He's stupid. He's slow. He doesn't get it. He doesn't know how to talk to others. And basically, you might as well take him out of school now. Right. So, this is a really powerful example
Yeah.
of that 5-year-old child
He
hearing
didn't find a letter till after she died, did she? When he was going to,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And so that's such a powerful example of the early messaging
Mm.
um, for children. And I'm not saying all this for parents to be like, oh, I've messed up my kid. No, you haven't messed up your kid because we as parents are
Mm.
living from our own limiting beliefs, right? We're only doing what we were taught, but it can begin to be unraveled, these tapestries for adults and kids, which is so wonderful. And we really can create a new reality.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think there's some real, I think it's some real inspiration to kids when they see, um, if you like, their parents that are making a big change and made a change in things and how different they are. That it then encourages them to, oh, well, that it can be changed, it can be, different, and you know, I love that with there's two boys, but then not a 9 year gap between my daughter and it. But it's a kind of it was kind of a do over to kind of all the stuff that I've learned, in my sort of personal growth journey since then. I can now actually, implement it if you like with my daughter, um, and she's great because of that. Because and they're great. But even though the middle child we just came actually homeschooled because of the schooling. Funny enough, when I got to learn about Bruce Lipton, the education system and all that, then we decided to homeschool our second child. But yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? How it can be also inspired. So even though you think, oh, I've ruined my kids, but actually it could be really inspiring to them by understanding a lot more of this. Um,
Yeah,
one thing,
absolutely.
one thing I want to sort of shift to, which is really which I love about I did a lot of work in a month, really deep dive around this over the last 6 months, is reprogramming your subconscious mind,
Mhm.
really. Um, from what I talk about with people, what kind of daily or something not maybe practice, but some techniques that they can practice daily to help them reprogram their mind to start shifting away from limiting beliefs. I mean, you talked about journeying already, which is a big one, but is there any other sort of practical techniques?
Well, I can only speak from what I use with my clients.
Mm.
And I found that Psych is the most powerful reprogramming of the subconscious modality that I've experienced. And I've used different modalities. That kind of modality, you actually have to work with a facilitator. But you can also learn it on your own because there's courses all over the world and you can begin to use it in your daily life. Now, if you choose that that's not what you want to do right now and you want to do more of a self study, I encourage people to do the sitting with the listening to the self. I encourage people to take note
Mm.
um, of when they say something in conversation like, wow, I've really messed up my kids. I encourage people to pay attention to the languaging and the words that they're using to talk about themselves and take note of it.
Mm.
And they can
That is
begin to,
really self-talk is so
yeah, self
yeah.
talk is crucial,
Yeah.
but begin to rewrite those instead of, I've really messed up my kids. Well, what do you want to believe? I want to believe that I'm a great mom.
Mm.
I'm a successful mom. I give my kids a beautiful life. And so for every one, negative or limiting belief that may come out, write six or seven beliefs that you want to hold in your heart about who
Yeah.
you are
Mm.
and begin to live into those.
Mm.
Sit with them, meditate with these new beliefs, um, catch yourself in the moment.
Mm.
Wording is powerful. Words are very
Yeah.
powerful.
And that's really helpful. And that self-compassion then,
Yes,
does
absolutely.
that play a really important role then, does it?
Self-compassion is huge. I think that we are especially where I live in this country. I don't know how much it's true where you live, but we are so driven, no pain, no gain.
Mm.
Uh, you got to grit and grind to make anything happen. You have to suffer to accomplish anything, right? Those are
Yeah.
societal beliefs. They're
It's interesting from over here. I mean,
yeah,
it might not be the general, but there's that that hustle that you really. I think with the forming of social media, like Instagram and stuff like that, and everyone's Instagram lifestyle, but that hustle nature really did come over stronger. But I really feel like from it could be wrong, but from my feeling is the last couple of years, there's been a kickback against that from in our sort of thing. I think a lot of people more yeah, kind of going, I'm gonna no, I don't want to hustle bustle because it just burns out. So there's a lot of narrative around burnout.
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But and I see it in my connections and stuff like that. And we've done a podcast about it with someone else, but a lot of it plays a big part on it. And that has come from a little bit of us adopting that
Yeah.
hustle and grind sort of nature a little bit. There's a bit of a kickback against it in our society now. But it's interesting, it's still quite big in yeah.
It is still big, but I will say this. I think if there was only one gift in the lockdown, if and which is hard to say there were any gifts because we know how damaging it was globally. One of the gifts was it forced people to be still
Mm.
and to be with themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people began to realize that they matter,
Yeah.
that their health matters, that their mind matters, their spirit matters,
Mm.
and that this really started to create a shift globally
Mm.
in people having conversation more. And I think self-compassion, well, I think compassion for others is absolutely crucial, but compassion for ourselves is really important to be cultivated. To your point you said earlier, it's that, I'm not saying like go be a jerk and like be cool with it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying people need a pass for just being downright ugly. I'm saying that when we screw up or when we look and say, man, I really messed up with my second kid, have a little compassion. Like, I'm doing the best I can. I did the best I could with the circumstances. And I think cultivating that relationship with self is it goes hand in hand with that piece about self-compassion
Yeah.
and more kindness. Um, and that, not only our physical health matters, but our mental and spiritual health matters as much.
Yes. Huge. I get a feeling from our conversation that self-awareness is so huge part of it. Um, and particularly to go through this journey of finding their authentic self and their true potential the they're going through their divine blueprint to really discover who they are. So that in that part that you do with your clients is that and overcoming limited I believe is obviously a major part of it because that's what they'll call it. But that self-awareness plays such a part. Um, how can they cultivate it if you like to
Cultivating the
yeah.
self-awareness.
There's a little bit of, like I know you said about like listen and so, but it's interesting. You've almost got to be a bit self-aware to, there's a bit of a chicken and egg there, isn't there? Because you've got to be a little bit self-aware to catch yourself. Uh,
Absolutely.
I know we're
Well,
kind of going back to my own journey when I kind of done a lot of
yeah.
work myself. It's uncomfortable. It's something, but there's, how, yes, well, I leave it. How can someone cultivate that self-awareness a little bit with them?
Well, I think that your audience,
Mm.
um, and people that happen upon the various incredible conversations that you've had, I do believe that that first step is willingness.
Mm.
Like I am willing to get uncomfortable, to get to a place where I'm living a more joyful life. Um, so willingness is huge. It's really easy to disassociate. And I'm not using that in a psychology term. It's really easy to check out. binge watch TV, doom scroll, eat in unhealthy ways, drink too much until you feel numb, whatever. There's all these numbing mechanisms that are out there,
Yeah. Well, there's
right?
actually a phrase, isn't it? Emotional eating. I mean, that's
Of course, right? And so there's all these addiction to exercise. I mean, there's a million things out in our world that you can get hooked on so
mm,
that you don't really have to be with yourself. So I think that the first step is I am willing to look at the hard things.
mm,
And I think once a person truly can sit in the willingness to be with themselves and to look deeper, even if it's really uncomfortable, that this opens a door and I believe fully the universe responds. I really believe in that. When you are willing to open the door and say, yeah, I'm willing. I'm willing to see. I'm willing to see what I need to see. I'm willing to be uncomfortable so that I can live a more aligned life, right?
mm,
Or that I can be happier or I can be freer, whatever. That's huge. And it's a personal choice always, right?
yeah.
We can't you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? But we can certainly help our children cultivate willingness,
Mm.
which
Yeah,
is really
and the
cool.
ripple effect from that is, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't remember where I heard it from or something, but it's for some reason it's stuck with me, and I normally can remember. You know, you associate, you can remember, but luckily I can't remember where I heard it from. But I always have this thing where when something does happen to you, you know, and something we kind of think, oh, it's happened to us, this whatever bad thing it is that you obviously your initial reaction, but then you can choose what reaction, how you react to the scenario. And there's a bit with the question of like that I always kind of ask myself, I'm gonna have to find out where I got it from at some point. But the is what am I what is the universe trying to teach me here? What's you know, and rather than kind of so it changes for me the emotional attachment of like, oh God, I'm angry, I'm annoyed, and I'm just based on negative or whatever, rather than actually a bit being curious and going, what am I being taught here, you know?
love that.
What
Yeah,
am I learning here, you know? And even to the point of last night, you know, I was stuck in a traffic jam for 3.5 hours last night. It was just like literally just standstill and thing. But even that, it kind of took a little bit of time out of the point of reach, you know, what am I being taught here? You know, what am I learning? You know, what's the lesson here? What's the thing? You know, and it was interesting. And from that point, you know, then started looking at more of the a different route I could go down that I haven't even looked at to get out of this. You know, it was um something that come up to me would go. I don't know if you know of it, the Hoponopono with the you
of
know.
course.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, well, I haven't practiced that for a long time. Maybe this is a good time. This is maybe it's a reminder that I should be practicing this. You know, so it's
Yeah,
like. And it was quite interesting because I think when I did, I always think of the 108 repetitions of that. I'm not going to go down whole banner because people will go and look it up. People, it's
sure, sure.
Dean's Joe Vitale was just Dr. Joe Vitale is just fantastic with it. And although he didn't create it, but he's kind of brought it into the mainstream, I suppose. But there was a bit of that. It's funny that I was always thinking that the when you do 108 repetitions, just to have a powerful
Yep,
element. Uh, it was kind of as I was kind of counting while I was sitting there because I had obviously a lot of time spare. You kind of needed to 108, and then the traffic started moving. Then it's like, well, okay, maybe you know, so maybe that was a lesson that I haven't practiced that for a long time, and maybe I should practice it more. And you know, and looking for a different route than the thing. And it's interesting. I had to when I got out, the route I ended up taking was completely the wrong direction that I wanted to go, but to get around and things. So. Um, it's yeah, it's quite an interesting thing around that just that question about what am I being taught here, and that self-awareness of it, of trying to
yeah,
change the narrative in your own thinking.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
And
love what you said. You said reframe it from what's happening to me to what's happening for me. What is for me here? Now, that's a hard thing to say when someone is facing like, a really tragic situation,
yeah.
right? And so we always want to be aware of
Mm.
when we, say let's reframe. But I really loved your metaphor of the traffic jam and looking for a different route. I
Mm.
mean, that's a beautiful metaphor for life.
Yeah.
So often we think this is the way, this has got to be the way. I got to do it this way because we're so attached to that. And those are those mindful moments when we can just sit, get into our breath,
Yeah.
get into the present and say, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about this. Um, what is there for me to see here, to understand or to look at differently, and then be still with it? I'm telling you, it's amazing how, and to your point, something shows up like, I
Mm.
could do this,
Yeah.
right?
And it shows up
And
with clarity, doesn't it? There's a real clarity around it rather than a,
reaction,
yeah.
rather than
Because
reacting
I think when you talk
to,
about limited beliefs, if you have a
yep,
reaction, your limited belief then kicks in, like you said,
you
it's
got it.
because of
You got
fear.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the limiting belief kicks in. But in this case of going inward or
Yeah.
being still, like you didn't really have a choice, you're in a traffic jam, right? But you had to be with you,
Mm.
right? And you were like, I could be like the victim of the circumstance of the traffic jam, or I could say, what's the opportunity? And then it was like, I can practice Ho'oponopono, which is an incredible
Mm.
healing. I mean, they healed an entire prison population with it in
Yeah.
Hawaii, you know so that's how powerful shifting our focus is. And that's such a great example of the
Mm.
traffic jam, because we think there's only one way
Yeah.
and we're reacting to the circumstance. But if we can be still and respond from a more centered, aligned
Mm.
place, the solution also shows up like that, and it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And you found a new route home.
It's probably one that I won't use again, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Hopefully I don't have to use again. But yeah, but it was yeah, it was just an interesting video. It was completely, the you make a lot of assumptions even in that scenario. I feel like you make a lot of assumptions that this oh that road would be blocked. It's blocked because of this, it's blocked for that. And actually it was blocked for a completely different reason, actually, with the Dartford crossing. Obviously you won't know what that is, but most people listening is, but where there was an accident there that had blocked up all the way back. And so the route that I thought was blocking it wasn't actually the cause of it. It was a different thing. So it's just that clarity, isn't it? That peacefulness and that's seeing different things really. Um I suppose a little bit goes on to reconnecting, if you like, with your divine blueprint when you're and particularly your authentic self. How does that how does it contribute to someone's spiritual growth as well? Because I think when someone's looking into, and a lot of people watching it, obviously a lot of the audience, the coaches and stuff like that, no matter sort of kind of they wherever they are on their personal growth story, journey, whether they start or, I mean, there's never an end to it, so they're not at the end of it, but but where they're on a personal journey and spiritual journey, how does that being authentic self contribute to that journey of spiritual and personal growth?
Well, like you said, it's not an event, it's a process.
Mm.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's a lifelong journey to knowing ourselves. And um, one of my teachers, something he shared that I really think is crucial for all of us to understand is, I believe we were all born with medicine, and this is our gift,
Mm.
right? Our gift of whatever that is, whether it's creating something new and innovative or it's offering the gift of connecting, right? So, one of my medicines is I offer people a platform to help them connect deeply to themselves, to
Mm.
connect authentically to themselves so that they can find their purpose,
Mm.
right? So, that's the medicine that I was born with. And I didn't know that, but it became clear to me as I stepped further and further on this path of knowing myself and removing the limiting beliefs. This has been I guess it's been about 9 years since I first found this modality, Psych K, but I've been working in the shamanic world for 20 something years.
Mm.
But but I believe that we all have a divine purpose.
Mm,
This is my personal belief
agree.
that we all have a divine purpose, whether it's to create a beautiful restaurant in which people feel nourished and held and loved and have celebration and community.
Mm,
That may be someone's medicine. Your medicine may be offering these beautiful podcasts in which you bring and deliver information to people to help light a spark in their heart that
mm,
previously wasn't there, right? But I do believe we're all born with a very important, powerful purpose,
mm,
and that the most beautiful journey we can embark upon is being willing to learn and understand our purpose and then deliver this medicine to the world.
yeah, lovely, beautiful. Oh, you said there
It's
was
a spiritual journey.
go on.
And that's the spiritual aspect of
Mm,
it, is that and again, this isn't religion, this isn't a particular dogma that I'm sharing. It's more it's in many of the great
yeah.
religions of the world and the universal um, teachings, is that we have a soul or a spirit,
Mm,
and we're more than just this physical body, right? And that we are connected to something greater, and
mm,
we're connected to everyone and everything.
yeah.
And the butterfly effect. The butterfly can move its wings in Rio de Janeiro, and it
Mm,
creates this effect around the entire world.
mm,
So that's how powerful we are as creators. And this is the spiritual piece. What is it that I am doing and creating in this world that can create more peace, more love, more harmony, more connection, more sense of belonging, in a world that has a lot of divisiveness,
mm,
right?
yeah.
And so I think that the spiritual path is the most important path for someone to embark upon, to really know and understand one's purpose for being here.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even to the point, I think you're absolutely right, and I think to the point where the starting that journey, it's interesting because a couple on along my journey, I feel like it's been a few like aha moments. Oh, this is my purpose, right? But then I've come to realize actually I don't think I fully know what it is yet. It will show itself when it's ready to show itself. There's certain steps. It'll be too if it shows itself now, it might be too scary. That so I've got steps. So that's kind of allow me for things to show up more rather than thinking, oh, I've done it or whatever. But it's interesting. I was kind of in the previous podcast recorded we talked about I was brought up in the sort of science. I was brought up with born in 71, so all the space and the Star Wars and the Star Trek and all that sort of stuff. And and in a difficult very multiple religious environment. So Jewish was very strong from my mum's side, but also Roman Catholic from my dad's side, and um, had dad had a best friend that was African, so they had that sort of kind of different thinking in there. And our neighbours that we're always with were Christians, so it was a real mixture of stuff that I experienced. And for a long time, I kind of not hated religion, but found religion a bit of, I didn't like the fact that most wars were caused by religion. There was something about it I felt uncomfortable with it. And it put a limited belief around me around the spiritual side because I'd connected it to religion.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until really that been help someone that I and going through this personal journey and realizing, when I first started personal growth, I thought, well, that's personal development done, tick. I've read Seven Habits, tick, done.
Yeah.
But it just goes on and on, obviously, and you realize it's never ending. But that bit around, and if anyone's watching this that really struggles with that spiritual bit, for me, it was really that understanding that there's spiritual doesn't mean religion. It's disconnected and it can be whatever you want it to be. And it's definitely like the energy, and then it opens up doors to other thinking because, and I always have to say you go look on YouTube or if or you go and search around um sounds changing the flow of water.
Mhm.
you'll realize then, even if however thing you think this is woo woo or whatever, you can't dispute that sort of stuff when you sort of see that stuff of actually just a sound can make a water change shape, and the I can't remember the is it a Chinese guy, Japanese guy that did the glass of water and writing words on it, wasn't there? Like,
Emoto, yeah.
yeah, writing,
Emoto, I think his name was. Yeah.
yeah, writing like the words on the glass, wasn't it? Changed the
Change the shape of the water
actually, yeah, the
molecules.
water. So you can't dispute that. So I love the way you explained that with the spiritual and the side, right? And if that's my thing, I mean, I think it's the what's it? Would you feel the if someone's connecting with you, for example, is the it's just it can't it's not just limiting beliefs, is it? That with like the psyche, what other stuff can you support people with rather than
Well, I mean,
I know because we've been talking very much about limiting
yeah,
beliefs here,
yeah.
but which
Well,
you've.
Psych-K, the body of work of Psych-K is primarily based on shifting the limiting beliefs
Mhm,
to create supportive beliefs for health, vocation, family, relationships, money, whatever. But I do believe the bigger picture of the work with the Psyche is to truly find that divine blueprint and
mhm,
to have full self actualization, if you want to look at it in terms with
mhm,
Maslow's hierarchy, that we are all born with the medicine and the purpose and this authentic self that just gets covered up by society and family. Nobody's fault. It just happens.
yeah.
And that there's this beautiful, bright, shiny being right there that is lugging around a whole bunch of limits, chains that are creating, stuckness,
Mhm,
right? And that we do the work with the Psyche or the shamanic work to remove those chains and to remove those veils of separation. And this is something Rob really was passionate about talking about is this illusion of separation disorder,
mhm,
that we really have adopted in our society the belief that we are not connected to anything greater or to one another,
mhm,
and that this illusion of separation is the root cause of so many um, issues, war, disease, um, you know, disease,
Confident.
dis-ease, and that so much of this can be rewritten at the
Mhm,
template of the subconscious to allow us to have more freedom and to get that sense of peace so that we can really deliver
mhm,
the medicine. And you said you're not sure about your medicine and purpose. I think you're in it. And I think you're living it right now with these beautiful connecting
mhm,
conversations that you're having that a lot of people need. This is food for the soul. This is nourishment for the soul that people are so hungry for. They just don't know where to find it or how to connect the dots.
yeah,
Or they've quietly been over here thinking all this stuff is real,
yeah.
but they don't have anybody in their immediate paradigm or family
Mhm,
that agrees with them. So they feel kind of like, I must be kind of kooky to think all this stuff, right? But what you're delivering is these
mhm,
connections.
yeah.
And I think you found your purpose in medicine.
Thank you.
And it will continue to evolve.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful
There's
with
one
this.
one of the I always talk about with coaches, 'cause obviously I help coaches sort of grow their coaching business stuff. And one of the things is there's tangible outcomes. And you're probably a good example where you talked about it already. We were a little bit about that. There's that tangible outcome of the divine blueprint to find your principle, but all of the intangible outcomes that come from that talk to is, and one of those the intangible outcomes from these conversations is almost what people to watch one and go, oh, because of that video, I've now gone down a right rabbit hole on this, because it's kind of hoping that's kind of one of the intangible hoping it sends people down a rabbit hole to explore stuff further and. Really,
Yeah,
and because that's where I suppose that's where as soon as you try to re-educate yourself, your self-awareness does level up, doesn't it? And
It does. And I really love what you said about intangible and tangible. And I often talk about intrinsic and extrinsic. And
Mm,
like I just spent 3 months in Europe and I was like, there was a very it was a very purposeful inward journey. And I was also reconnecting with my roots and my biological family and all these things, right? Terra Madre, the Mother Earth. And so in the first couple of days, I was like, okay, where am I going to go first? And this and that. And I want to see this city. And I was very much in my head,
mm,
like about the extrinsic, what I wanted. Right. And so what I did is I got really still and I said, what do I truly want? So this
mm,
goes to the underneath, the intrinsic. What I really want is meaningful, connected,
mm,
beautiful, nourishing experiences, right? That's intangible,
mm.
right? When you think about it, it's
Yeah,
intrinsic. It's
yeah.
the value, it's the feeling, it's the meaning,
Mm,
what will feed my spirit. So I did some of my own subconscious work around that,
mm,
and I quit worrying about what I was going to do. And then what happened was everything unfolded and I met people and I ended up in amazing places and I found beautiful things that weren't in a guidebook and I
mm,
didn't go on tours. I just allowed myself
mm,
to see what wanted to emerge, see what wanted to happen, and I was led.
mm,
Even meeting you, I was led to meet you. Like I didn't sit down and say, I want to meet some person to do this, to do a podcast and connect. I followed the breadcrumbs
mm,
and it opened the door to this amazing conversation, which
mm.
may not have a tangible monetary
Mm.
value, which is what we're taught to look for,
Yeah,
but there's so many layers of connection and beauty and aha for me, for you, and hopefully for everyone who's listening, which will
absolutely.
then expound, and then it just grows and grows, which I think is really cool.
And that's the perfect way to end it on.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. We're going to put your details in the thing. You've got your website, yourinnersoul.com.
your inner source.
Inner Soul, sorry, well done. Yourinnersource.com. So put that in there. And is that the best place for people to connect with you, is it?
Absolutely. There's a contact form there. I have Instagram, Elaine underscore your inner source. I Facebook I only use personally.
Yeah.
Um, but thank you for the opportunity to connect with you and have this
Um,
really meaningful conversation. I
it's,
really appreciate it.
yeah, I appreciate you coming on and sharing everything that you have. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.